Evening, everybody. It's a bit of a late one. I'm not sure if you can see the clock, but it's way past my bedtime. But I'm just going to crack off a big one, a quick one. Big one being Big Peat. We'll just do a quick one before I hit the sack. It is Thursday, the 24th of March. It is the day before Good Friday, 4-day weekend. Yes, and I need it, to be perfectly honest. So this is the fourth of the remarkable regional malts, and I'm pretty certain was the first one that they released, because I can remember this working at the whisky shop. I think it was released just after I finished with them, and I'm fairly certain the other three came afterwards. So this is Big Peat, and this is what it looks like. Very good, very distinctive labelling. The guy, presumably his name is Peat. I don't know if he's based on somebody, actually anybody specifically, but it's a really good caricature and stands out a hell of a lot on the shelf. So as with the other remarkable regional malts, this is non-chill filtered, this is not coloured, and it is released at 46%. Now this one we've done Speyside, Highlands and Islands, and this one is whiskies just from Islay. So they don't actually say where the malts are from, but there are not that many distilleries on Islay, so you could potentially hazard a guess. Now Islay whiskey is known predominantly for its peatiness, smokiness, this very medicinal iodine flavour, and this is caused in the main by something called phenols, which are chemicals that are released when peat is fired to dry the barley, and it permeates into the barley, and then when you get the mash, once you've mixed it with water and you've gone through the fermentation process, the phenols are actually part of this mixture, and this is what the phenols will give you the smoky, medicinal, really intense characteristics of Islay whiskey. And you can measure phenols. You can actually take a measurement, and it's called ppm. It's basically phenols per million, parts per million of phenols per million. And some companies will use this as it's kind of a marketing tool as well. And some whiskey drinkers use this almost as a kind of matter of pride in terms of, oh well, the one I like is this particular ppm. So Big Peat in their marketing bump with the tasting notes that they gave me when I got the samples, this is 40 ppm, which is pretty strong. It's not like a percentage, it is an actual measurement. So something like Highland Park, which has got a bit of smokiness to it, is about, say, 15. Lefroy, you're looking at about 40. Ardbeg potentially slightly more like 50. And I'm pretty certain, and I've not got it yet, whether I'll get it at all, but I'm pretty certain Bruichladdich, when they released the Octomore, and I'm sure people in the comments will be able to put me straight on this, but I'm sure the reason that Bruichladdich called it the Octomore was that it was actually at 80, and that they released it deliberately initially as the peatiest whiskey that you could find. So 40 ppm, which is what Big Peat has got as a blended malt. They're using some pretty peaty whiskies in here, and there's a chance potentially that they're actually using a couple slightly lower, slightly higher to kind of to bring it down to that measurement. So there could well be Lefroy, there could well be Ardbeg in there, but they're not saying for certain, because they've probably done deals with the various distilleries to say, look, we use your whiskey, but we will put it under our own label and we won't actually say what's in it. And it's where this transparency argument comes in, but they're saying it's from Islay, so you can narrow it down. It's when it's a blended malt of Scotch. It could be anything, to be honest. So I'm quite looking forward to this, because I do like my Islas. Not that I was disappointed with the rock lobster. Done it again. Rock oyster yesterday. I think I just got my expectations far too high after the Timorous Beastie and the Scallywag. And I also obviously twigged as I was going through the editing process that I'd said that I was doing dram number 60 yesterday, and if you went 2 back, it was dram 48 for the Timorous Beastie. Obviously 60 minus 2 is not 48, it's 58. Again, Douglas Laing, if you want to know the information about Douglas Laing, it's on the Timorous Beastie one. It's not dram number 48, it's dram number 58. Thanks very much, Chris Cook, for pointing that out. I'd already seen it and already gone, oh, Duh. Idiot. So, let's crack on with this. Yes, definitely peat, smoke. Ooh, something else it's kind of like a sweet, but it's not sweetness, it's like a particular type of sweet, and I can't quite get it. Oh, it's going to bug me now. It's going to really annoy me. It's like a hard candy, but I can't quite think of what type of hard candy it is. There's kind of ash. There's a lot of black pepper on there. There's menthol, like euthymal toothpaste. I don't know if my grandma used to use euthymal, and it's a really strong, really evocative smelling toothpaste of like quite intense menthol, but it's that kind of medicinal menthol as well. Oh, this sweet's going to bug me. I cannot get it. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't get it. It might ping in there at some point. But loads of stuff on the nose. I mean, it's fantastic. It's one of those that if you've never come across an Islay whiskey before, you'll take a sniff of that and go, that's off, there's something wrong with it, it shouldn't taste like that. I've genuinely had that. I've had people come back with a bottle of Lafroig saying, I got given this as a present and it's off, can I return it, can I get another one? And we had to tell them that actually that's what it's supposed to taste like. Beautiful mouthfeel. Absolutely beautiful mouthfeel, and then all of a sudden this ashiness kicks in, and it's like cigarette smoke, and it's almost slightly off-putting because I'm not a smoker and I'm not a fan of cigarette smoke, but there's an incredible richness to it and an incredible sweetness. And it starts off so rich, silky, kind of like a glycerin type feel to it initially, and that thickness of glycerin. I've got 2 kids, and when they have a cough, there's Tixilex in the UK, which is like for the babies, is essentially glycerol, and that's it. There's nothing else in it, and it has that thickness and sweetness to it. It starts off as glycerol, and then it's almost like you've got a mouthful of glycerol, and then you take a puff on a cigarette. But then this medicinal element kicks in, and it's still lingering now. I've taken 1 sip of it, and it's still, you can still taste it. It's one of the fantastic things about Islay is the flavours are that intense, and there's so much complexity in it. As a rule of thumb for Islay, there's so many flavours packed in there because of this peatiness and these phenols that you tend to get more out of it, and the flavours last a lot longer afterwards because they're so intense. Now, if you don't like it, the fact that those flavours are lingering can actually be quite unpleasant. My wife's probably not going to be too keen when I go to give her a kiss goodnight. I'm going to have to drink a fair bit of water just to kind of get that aroma and taste out of my mouth, because she'll just be like, no, I don't want to kiss you. I mean, she's sometimes like that anyway, but yeah, it will be a kind of like, no, get away from me, turn your head, go to sleep. Less cigarette-y that time, much nicer. Again, glycerol to start with, then all of a sudden these other flavours, this smokiness and this iodine and everything else kind of comes in from the side and starts. The sweetness is still there, it just supports everything, but there's this lovely sweetness, there's saltiness, there's black pepper, there's kind of like smoked fish as well. It's not as intense as the nose sort of indicated it might be, but that's actually for the better. You can get some heavily peated whiskies, and at 40 ppm this is heavily peated. You can get some heavily peated whiskies that are just too intense and too much peat and nothing else. It's a fantastic balance of richness and sweetness here, along with the smokiness that you would expect from peaty Islas. I'd be willing to bet there's a fair degree of Ardbeg in here, because there's elements of that really do remind me of Ardbeg. But as a representation of Islay, fantastic stuff. I think it's about 35-40 quid. I've not double checked the price. 46%. To be honest, if it was lower than that, it would probably be a little bit wishy-washy. So yeah, fantastic stuff. 3 out of 4 basically for fantastic whiskies. And the Rock Oyster is a very, very good whiskey. It's just not quite at the levels of the other 3, to be perfectly honest. But as a range of 4, you cannot go wrong with any of them. And they are remarkable regional malts, and they've done an absolutely fantastic job. That is very, very good indeed. I love the sweetness to it. I think it's excellent, and I would highly recommend all 4 of them to whiskey drinkers, to people starting out in whiskey. I think a really good thing for Douglas Laing to do, and I don't know if they do this, but if they're watching, I would probably start thinking about doing a box of 4 miniatures together and do like a little tasting range, because I think the 4 of those, one after the other, for somebody that's getting into whiskey as a present or as a kind of, tasting notes, and this is a progression of Scotch whiskey, I think you'd have a brilliant package of the 4 miniatures there. So yes, that's another one down. Very exciting tonight. I actually got interviewed by Mark Gillespie of WhiskyCast. I sent him an email just informing him of the challenge that I was doing, and to be perfectly honest, wasn't actually expecting a reply. I thought he'd be far too busy and have far more important things to be talking about, but pretty much instantly he came back and said yes. Sounds like a fantastic idea. Would love to support you, and if you want to do an interview to get on the next podcast, I'd be more than happy to. So thanks very much to Mike, isn't it? Yeah. I'm giddy because it was actually quite exciting, and hopefully that'll spread the word. So if you are watching this after listening to WhiskyCast, hello. Hopefully I didn't babble too much like I tend to do in most of these reviews. Thanks for joining me, and I will sign off. It's time for bed. I'm tired. I'm starting to ramble, so it's time for me to go. Have a good Easter weekend. I will carry on doing this, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.